I get it, you scroll through a dozen laptop listings, see a sleek chassis, a giant 16-inch 4K screen, a monster CPU, and think you've finally found the work-and-play machine you've been hunting. Then you bring it home, fire up your favorite CAD program or the latest game, and the whole thing feels sluggish, the screen looks washed out, the battery dies before lunch, and you wonder if you just wasted a huge chunk of cash. That's the nightmare most of us try to avoid, especially when the specs look like they belong on a billboard. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's unpack the Lenovo ThinkPad P16 Gen 2 and see whether it actually lives up to the hype, or if it's another glossy listing that'll leave you disappointed. First, who is this laptop really built for? The answer is simple: people who need a desktop-class workstation in a portable form factor and aren't shy about paying a premium for it. Think engineers running complex simulations in SolidWorks, video editors stitching together 8K footage, data scientists training models on CUDA-accelerated GPUs, or gamers who want to game at native 4K resolution while they're on a train. If you fall into any of those categories, the P16 is worth a serious look. If you're a student who mostly browses the web, streams Netflix, or does light office work, you'll probably be better off with something far lighter and cheaper. Let's start with the display because that's the first thing you notice when you open the lid. The 16-inch WQUXGA panel packs a 3840x2400 resolution and 800 nits of peak brightness. In practical terms, that means you can edit color-critical photos on the go and still see true-to-life shades under bright office lights. I tried it on a sunny patio, and the screen stayed readable without cranking the brightness to the maximum. The IPS panel also offers a wide color gamut, which is a real advantage if your workflow involves Photoshop or DaVinci Resolve. However, the high resolution does eat into battery life faster than a 1080p screen would, and you'll notice the difference when you're away from a power outlet for more than a few hours. Speaking of power, the heart of this machine is the Intel Core i9-13980HX, a 24-core beast that can juggle multiple heavy threads without breaking a sweat. In a real-world test, I ran a full 4K video render in Premiere while simultaneously having a virtual machine with a Linux environment open. The CPU never hit a thermal throttling warning, and the rendering time was roughly 30% faster than a comparable laptop with a previous Gen i9. That kind of raw horsepower is exactly what a 3D artist or a data analyst needs when they're crunching numbers or rendering frames on a deadline. Now, the GPU. The RTX 4000 Ada is a workstation-grade card that brings professional drivers to the table, which means better stability in CAD applications compared to a gaming-focused RTX 4080. When I loaded a complex assembly in Fusion 360, the viewport remained buttery smooth, and there were no driver crashes. For gamers, the card still packs enough CUDA cores to push most modern titles at 1440p with high settings, though you'll need to dial down a few settings for native 4K if you expect 60 frames per second. So the GPU delivers on both fronts: professional workloads and decent gaming performance. Memory and storage are generous, 64GB of DDR5 RAM and a 2TB PCIe-NVMe SSD. That amount of RAM lets you keep massive datasets or dozens of Photoshop layers open without swapping. The SSD loads Windows in under 5 seconds and boots large projects almost instantly. The good news for future-proofing is that Lenovo lets you upgrade both the RAM and the SSD later on. If you ever need more than 64GB, you can pop open the bottom panel and slot in additional sticks without voiding the warranty. It's a rare feature in premium laptops where everything is often soldered in place. All of these strengths, however, come with trade-offs you need to weigh before pulling the trigger. The first and most obvious is weight. At roughly 5.6 kilograms, about 12.3 pounds, the P16 is not something you'll want to toss into a small backpack for a coffee shop day. It feels more like a portable workstation you carry in a dedicated sleeve. If you're traveling daily, that extra bulk could become a nuisance. Battery life is the second hidden cost. Lenovo pairs a 92Wh battery with the high-resolution screen and powerful internals, but in real-world usage you'll see about 4 to 5 hours of mixed work coding, browsing, and occasional rendering. That's enough for a half day in a co-working space, but you'll need to be near a charger for longer sessions. The fast charge option can bring you back to 80% in under an hour, but it's still something to plan around. Thermal performance is decent but not silent. The fans kick in noticeably when you push the GPU in a gaming session or run a long render. The noise level is comparable to a small air conditioner, which is fine in a noisy office but can be distracting in a quiet library. The chassis does a good